What would I tell my baby writer self back in 2020 when I was just starting the first draft of my first novel? Honestly, there's lots of things that I wish I knew that would have saved me a lot of stress and perfectionism and would have allowed me to relax more into the process. So today I just wanted to have a casual chat with you about what I would have wanted to hear back then, and maybe it's what you need to hear right now too. So I would have told myself, don't wait so long to get started. I was really fixated on needing to know so much before actually starting. I thought that I needed to know my whole plot. I thought I needed to understand my characters more before I even put pen to paper. I don't think I realized that you do so much discovering when you actually write. And of course I found this out by doing it. So if you have any doubts about the story you want to tell, maybe you're second guessing your book or you're second guessing your idea, I mean, you might just have like the vibes. You might just have a line of dialogue, or like you can kind of see your character in this setting that you want to explore. That's enough. That's what you need to get started. You're gonna find out so much from the actual writing. And I think that understanding that your first few drafts are just discovery drafts, they don't have to be anything. They can have like giant plot holes, they can be like missing characters, all of that. If you can internalize that this is going to be a fun way to discover and that you're just moving forward with your curiosities, then you can let go of that perfectionism. You can understand that you're gonna figure it out along the way. And even though I did eventually figure that out, I wish that I had known this before, because I think I would have started sooner. Not that there's anything wrong with my timeline, because it was what I needed, it was what worked for me. Not that there's anything wrong with my timeline. I think that I needed to write the story when I needed to write it. And just like right now, where I'm starting my second novel, this is the time in my life that I'm meant to write it. That's what I truly believe anyway. So I can never really criticize like, oh, I wish that I had started my first book sooner, but I do wish that I had more of the confidence, because the confidence came with the writing. You can't really build the confidence and then go to the draft. So I would say to baby writer Kaylee, don't wait to get started. You don't need to know everything. So this was something I learned way later in the drafting process. This wasn't actually a first draft lesson, but if I had known, maybe writing my first draft would have been a little bit easier. But I was protecting my characters too much, I think. I obviously loved this character I was creating. I was thinking about her before writing it, and then I really, wanted to explore what her life was like, what the story could be. And I didn't realize that I needed to make things harder for her all the time in order for me to get through the draft and in order for me to propel the story forward. Making things difficult is where all the tension lies. And I think consciously thinking, how am I gonna put my character through it? How am I gonna make this difficult for her? How am I gonna make this choice harder? Or how am I going to, or like what other things am I going to add that are just going to keep complicating her journey? Would have been so helpful to know earlier. Every time you back your character into a corner, the story gets more interesting. And I think it's a lot more fun for you as the writer. So what I like to tell my coaching clients or those that I work with for their first drafts is make things harder for your character. Put them through it. Give them trials, give them so many complications. Also think about what secrets they could be holding or what lies they're telling. Sort of letting go of that preciousness of wanting to keep your character close and safe and just set her out there and just make things really difficult for her can only help with many drafts. But I think when you're thinking about it in your first draft, you're gonna find tension in places that you hadn't realized the tension was going to be there. There will be so many moments when writing feels awkward, when it feels confusing and maybe even painful. And I wish that I had known that that was normal. I kind of figured that I want to write this story, right? Like, I love writing. I keep thinking about this novel. I keep thinking about what tension I can add in my character. But then when I would go to write, I would be like squirming at the desk or just not wanting to do it. I really did feel a lot of discomfort. And I would tell myself that that is so part of the process and that you can actually use that discomfort to your advantage. I've said this before in other videos, but if you're feeling that like uncertainty or you're feeling tense, just give that all to your characters. Let them carry that discomfort. Maybe you're feeling like you're not worthy to write. That's definitely something we all deal with, especially in early drafts where like it's supposed to be bad. We forget that. It's going to be a shitty first draft and you could feel imposter syndrome, like who am I to write a novel? All of that emotion that comes with that, what if you give that to your character in a scene? Or if you're feeling like you want to write about something that's like really raw or tender, maybe it's an emotion you don't really want to explore, but you know you would like to in your book, just put it all on your character. I think one, it's kind of like disassociating yourself from the emotion, which is always helpful, but also it's just gonna make your draft better. It's just gonna add layers to your character and complexity and empathy and emotionality and all the things that you're gonna need anyway. So I would recommend, or I would tell my younger self, that when you're feeling that discomfort, sit with it for a minute, try to understand like maybe where it's coming from in a very gentle way, and then put it on one of your characters, explore a scene where they're feeling the same way, and you never know what could come from that. Reading is such a huge part of my process during all of the drafts, during all the time. I'm always reading a book. If I'm not reading a book, I feel weird, like something's wrong with me. Reading can be so helpful and is so inspiring that you have to remember not to compare what you're writing to what you're reading. When you read these books, they feel effortless because the writer did so much work to make it feel that way. They went through a million revisions. They had their very messy and ugly early drafts, just like you're in at this moment. And I think like we all know this, but it's so hard when you're already kind of feeling down on yourself to then remember that other people have gone through what you're going through and that the book you're reading has just gone through so many years of work. So don't compare yourself really to any writer, but like especially to the books you're reading. I've talked about this before with information overload. For me, when I'm drafting, I learned this the hard way, but I'm only reading fiction now because before I was reading a ton of craft books at the same time and I was just feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so much information. How am I ever gonna do this? So basically just no comparing at this stage, at any stage, but especially in this first draft. I would have given myself a nice big hug and said, girl, don't worry about it, just keep writing. As I keep mentioning, this first draft is just for you. It's a way for you to discover what you've got here, what your story is, who your characters are, what you like writing about. It really is a precious thing that's just between you and yourself, and it's going to be very messy. In this curiosity and discovery phase, I think letting go is the absolute best thing you can do. This is why I like to call it the wild draft. It's all about recklessness, it's all about playfulness. There's a lighthearted energy to it, or maybe childlike wonder to it. It's really about letting go. And there's no room for perfectionism here because first of all, what is a perfect book? And second of all, it's just gonna hinder your own creativity. And that's what you're doing this for. I think we can get really caught up in the final product instead of the process with which we're writing. And if you're writing your wild draft, you are fully in the process. You're not thinking about the finished product. You're not thinking about your final draft or possible publication. You're really in the moment. I think there's something so freeing in that. The energy you bring to the page will really dictate how your writing session goes. So if you're in this mode of, what's gonna happen today? What am I gonna discover? What am I gonna find out? I think that you'll end up having a much more enjoyable time when you're writing. And speaking of wild drafts, I run a 6-month novel writing cohort called The Wild Draft, and the waitlist for January 2026 is now open. I'm so excited to be offering this again. I'm in the middle of a session right now, and we are almost to the final stretch of actually finishing first novel drafts together. It's a small group cohort, so I enroll no more than 8 in each session. Over 6 months, we write a novel together. We get that first draft done. We have the accountability of each other. And then I provide non-traditional and conventional craft strategies to get you through the drafts so that you don't feel so lost. You feel like you have some structure, but we're also embracing that messiness and that wildness together. So you can find the waitlist for that below. You will get priority when enrollment officially opens. So if your goal is to let go and finish your first novel draft in the new year, I hope that you'll join us. I would love to meet you and love to learn about your book and your idea, and we can just embrace the messiness together. And if you enjoyed this more casual chat, I have another one here that you can check out. So I'll see you over there or in my next one. Bye.